بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. We left off talking about Nabi Musa and his fight with the Egyptian. We said that he stood up for the right thing, he stood up for justice, no matter who it was against, because the Egyptians were seen as superior to Bani Israel. And it didn't matter. He saw that Bani Israel was being oppressed. He stood with them, he sided with them, even against the oppressor who was from a so-called higher class. And in this situation, they saw that this group of people were superior, even though we know this is not the case, but in this society, they considered themselves superior to others, but this didn't bother him. The main thing was that he stood for what was right and he stood for justice. But it showed Fir'aun that his suspicions were correct, that Musa sided with Bani Israel and against the Egyptians, so he chose his side in that moment, and Fir'aun would not be pleased with this. So they were looking for him as he was fleeing from this situation. They were hunting Musa alayhi salam. So the author, we pick back up where we left off. He said he circled back to the scene of the previous night's events where he had struck the Egyptian man, and he saw the same man from Bani Israel, sought his help the night before, was again fighting another Egyptian. When he saw Musa, he shouted for his help again. Musa ran over there to where they were fighting, and again he pulled them apart, and he tried to, settle down everything, calm it down, but the Egyptian kept charging at the man from Bani Israel. So Musa looked at the man from Bani Israel and said, "You are clearly twisted. You are making a lot of problems." Musa assumed that yesterday's fight was just some rare thing that happened, anomaly. So he had intervened, and tried to settle the situation and defend him. But now 2 fights in a row, in just 2 days, it showed that this man from Bani Israel clearly had something going on, that he was partly to blame, and he had some issues. Maybe he's starting trouble with people. But Musa could deal with him later. So he needed to get this Egyptian man away from him. So Musa raised his fist to strike the Egyptian because he's keep fighting and fighting against him and attacking him. But the Bani Israel man, he was scared, and he thought that he was going to be the one that Musa hit. So he yelled out, "Musa, do you want to kill me just like you killed that person yesterday? You want to be a tyrant in the land, and you clearly don't want to be a reformer." So Musa, now this man, they didn't know who killed the Egyptian man yesterday, but now this guy, he yelled it out so everyone heard. So Musa ran into the alleyways and he got away before the Egyptian realized that he was just told exactly who killed the Egyptian man the day prior. So he rushed to the court of Pharaoh, the Egyptian man. He ran to the court of Pharaoh. He told him, I know who killed the Egyptian yesterday. It was Musa." So Pharaoh, he gathered his advisors together, and he brought the witness to make it clear that Musa was guilty not only of killing that Egyptian man, but what they saw as worse than that was sympathizing with Bani Israel. They didn't want anyone to sympathize with them at all. Then everyone should consider them less than humans, basically. So now he figured out that Musa has a soft spot towards Bani Israel, and he is blinded by his emotions, and he always suspected this of Musa, but now he has proven it in his eyes. So Pharaoh put a warrant for Musa's arrest and execution. So now he's willing to kill the child that he has that was raised in his house because of this crime. So there was someone among Pharaoh's advisors, one named Ezekiel, but this is not the confused with the Ezekiel with the prophet Ezekiel, or we call Hizkiel, who is the third successor of Musa. Uh, so this is someone else with the same name. So he was Pharaoh's treasurer and older man, and one of the distant relatives. He had always liked Musa and admired his character and his taqwa and his goodness. So he was afraid for Musa's life. So he wanted to warn Musa alayhi salam that they're plotting to kill him. So he needs to get out of this town. So he rushed away from the palace and he went to the outskirts of the city, and he wanted to get there ahead of the soldiers that were, or the police that were looking for Musa, to warn him, to tell him, you need to go quickly, they're coming for you. So he went around the streets where Musa was saw last, and eventually he found him, and he told him that Fir'aun has issued a verdict to kill you, so you need to leave this area. So Musa alayhi salam, without opportunity to say goodbye to his family or gather his stuff, he left the city, and he was, this difficult situation. He only had basically the shirt on his back, and he said in dua and from Quran, "My Lord, deliver me from these unjust people." So he said he went north along the Nile, and then he shifted course, headed northeast, and he went towards Midian, where he heard there was a prophet there. He said to himself, I hope my Lord will show me the best path to take. So he went by night and he slept by day. And it says like he's imagining that these soldiers are behind him. So he's moving quickly, and he ate whatever he could along the way. And he's just trying to get to this prophet of Allah that is in this town. We'll talk about him shortly. On the 8th day, he woke up and he heard sheep, and he heard the whistles from the shepherds. So he was on a hill and he saw the well. So from a distance, he saw a lot of shepherds trying to get water for their flocks. And he saw two young women holding back their sheep. So he approached and he asked these young ladies, what's the matter? Why don't you go and get water for your sheep? They said, we do not water our sheep until the other shepherds have left. Otherwise, it's not decent for us to compete with them for a place for our sheep. And our father used to water them himself, but now he's an elderly man and he cannot do this. And this shows the modesty of these women, that they didn't want to be around strange men that were not relatives to them. They would rather wait until those people vacated that area, and then they have the space free, and they don't intermingle with these other shepherds. He says, as exhausted as he was, Musa watered their sheep for them. Then he was done. He brought the sheep back to them, and then he went and got under the shade of a tree, and he started to sleep. We see that helping other people, because these women clearly they needed help, because they didn't want to go with those men, and they needed to feed water their sheep. So we see that helping other people is from the akhlaq or ethics of the anbiya, or the prophets. And we see that when someone is in need of help, for example, we see a lady struggling to carry something heavy, or to lift something, then we should go, we should help them. We see that they are struggling to carry a stroller, for example, up a flight of stairs. we are able, and she's struggling with a baby and trying to carry a stroller, good akhlaq from us. We see that Musa alayhi salam helped these women who are in need. We should also offer our help. Can we help you? We open the door, we carry the things up. We see the groceries for some elderly lady, we carry them. Even this is not just for ladies. We see a man struggling with something, we offer our help to them. You need our help. We see someone's car is broke down, they're pushing it, they're trying to push it by themselves. We should go and offer, we push a little bit too and help them, and then go on our way. All of this is thawab. We get reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for helping other people. And we learn this and we see this in this example from Musa alayhi salam. So he went under that tree, took some rest. The last thought the author is saying, maybe was on his mind was a prayer to Allah that he is in need, he is in help. He wanted Allah to show him the way he needed to go, because we see the ayat is mentioned here. My Lord, I'm in dire need of any goodness you can send down to me. He is asking Allah to send him something. Most of the time, the answer to the prayer comes in the time we need it the most. We are in our last hope when we are asking Allah at this time is in the prayers of desperation. So it said he would have been content with just some bread, because since he left Egypt, he didn't have anything. He only had leaves and herbs along the way that he found. And it says that he has grown so emaciated, or, malnourishment through this time, that you could see the leaves through his skin. I read riwayah to this thing too, that his stomach you could see like a green, he's eating so many leaves and leaves and leaves that his skin is stretched thin, also we see mentioned here. So not long after he retired from his helping these ladies, one of the two ladies approached him, and she went over like very shy and respectful, and she made some noise around. Maybe she kicked her foot around or something, or made some noise to kind of wake him up. And she said, my father extends to you an invitation, and and to pay you for the wages that you have watering our flock of sheep. He wants to give you something. So as she set off to lead the way home, Musa wanted to go give this meet the father and get the reward from the father. So she led the way home, but Musa alayhi salam told her to stop. He said, I would rather that you walk behind me. But she knows the way. We would think that she should lead the way because she knows the way. But Musa said, no, you should walk behind me. Let me walk in front of you, and you can guide me from there. Tell me where to go. He says, I am from a people who do not look inappropriately at women. And we see that from this, Allah tells us to lower our gaze and to guard ourselves. That if the woman is walking in front of him, he's going to be looking at her because she's right in front of him. He says it's better for me to walk in front, so you are not walking in front of me, and I don't look inappropriately at women. I mean, this is a trait of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and all of the prophets, and we have to take example from this. We cannot be like. I remember when I was growing up, I was a teenager, and I was Muslims like 17, 18 years old, and I used to see some of the other guys, and they would see the lady, and they would say, those say the first glance is forgiven, and the second glance is haram. Meaning, it means obviously that you just saw the woman and then you turned away because you didn't mean to look at her, but you saw her and you saw her, walking or whatever, and then you look away, lower your gaze, and then if you look again, then it is haram. So, but these guys misinterpreted the thing, and we cannot be like them. They would say, they would see the lady here, and they would follow all the way until she is gone. They cannot see her anymore in the distance. They said, that was my first look. I just made it count. I had to take it all the way. And the older guys would always say, no, that's haram. You can't do that. It's not what it means. But they would interpret it the way that they want to. So we have to remember that thing that, difficult for many people, but Allah tells us to lower our gaze when we see the women, and to not stare, and not, we see that from Musa. He didn't even want to be placed in that situation. So meaning that if we can avoid that situation, we should do that. As he said, that I would rather walk in front of you and you guide me from that way. Said they arrived at a simple house surrounded by a pasture, and Musa saw the sheep he herded earlier. He was greeted at the door by an elderly man who introduced himself as Shu'aib. Musa immediately recognized Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam, the orator of the prophets, as he is mentioned, and they embraced, and Shu'aib led him to a small sitting room. So Musa recounted his entire, events that happened, what happened in Egypt, and he relayed all of this to Shu'aib and his daughters. And Shu'aib, he comforted him. He said, don't fear, your prayer has been answered. You've been delivered from those unjust people. This is mentioned in Surah 28, ayat 25. So they ate together. Then Shu'aib showed Musa to a small room where he could rest and, gain some strength from his journey. And we also see here that from the guests, it's good to offer guests food or something to drink, and, offer them something, as we see from Shu'aib alayhi salam. He has done this as well. And we learned previously from Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he would always go find guests to eat with him. So when the hosts were alone, Shu'aib and his daughters, one of the daughters, Safra, she said, Father, hire him to help you with the farm. The best person you can hire is someone strong and trustworthy. So Shu'aib asked his daughter, I understand how you know that he is strong. You witnessed him handle all of these sheep and, easily, and do it by himself. But how do you know that he is trustworthy? So Safra told him how Musa insisted that she walk behind him because he didn't want to see something inappropriate from her. So Shu'aib, he nodded and smiled, and he realized that this man Musa has good akhlaq. He has taqwa, he has fear of Allah, he is a good person. He didn't want to take advantage of his daughters and look at them inappropriately or make inappropriate advances towards them. So later, when Musa alayhi salam was rested, he came out of the guest room and he came and sat with Shu'aib again. And so Shu'aib told him, I would like to have you marry one of these daughters of mine. And he pointed to his daughters who were in the distance preparing some dinner. And he said, but the condition for this is that you work for me for 8 years. And if you complete 10, it will be better. It's up to you. He said, I don't want to be hard on you. So the work I will give you, it won't be too tiresome. Allah willing, you will find that I am one of the righteous people. So Musa had seen the strength and the goodness in that daughter, Safra, so he chose her. He was grateful that Shu'aib had not only offered his daughter in marriage, but also offered him a respectable way to pay her his, the bridal gift. So he gave him some work also, made him have like an honest living and not just living off of them, but he made them, he employed him in a business. So at the moment, he didn't have anything to give her because he left with just a shirt on his back. But he did have ability to work, and by working, he could earn wages and then offer her a good gift. So we also have to look at this in the marriage. A lot of time, See, people are looking for things, material things. The first thing they say, what type of car does he drive? What type of neighborhood does he live in? What size is the house that he has? What type of job does he have? What level of the job? What is the salary that he has? And they don't ask anything. Is he a good person? Is he righteous? Does he make salat? Does he fast? Does he go to ziyarat? Does he know Quran? How much Quran does he know? Who asked that question? We don't ever, rarely ever see how much Quran does this person know, for example. It's all material things for the most part. But Musa didn't have any of these material things, but he had ability. And a lot of time we need to look at the ability of the other person. Maybe they don't have anything. Maybe at that moment they don't have anything, but they have taqwa, they have deen, they have religion, and they are a good person, and they have ability to work. We have to trust in the ability that they will make something, and they will work, and they will eventually have something. But a lot of people, they don't want to do that, you know. I remember when I got married, I didn't have anything. I had just got my apartment, but I had no furniture, no, I really didn't have much of anything, but I was working hard and I knew eventually I would get it. So I just told my wife, you know, at that time, I was like, you know, I don't have much to offer, but eventually you stick with me, I work and I will, you know, we'll get somewhere. So alhamdulillah, it worked out. And I always remember my grandfather, he told me, he said, well, son, I know she didn't marry you for your money because you don't have any. So, you know, we have to look at the person. Sometimes someone may have a lot of things, but the person, maybe they're bad, they're not good, maybe they are arrogant, or they think they have a lot of money so they can treat people badly, or abuse their wife, or who knows, you know. And then on the other side, maybe someone has, there's always exceptions, of course, but you know, maybe on the other side of it, someone doesn't have much of anything, but he could be the best person for them, the best man to help her, and he's religious, and he just needs to start opportunity to get a good job and work, and has ambition, as we see that like this is in the case of Musa alayhi salam. He didn't have anything, but he had ambition and he was willing to work. And this is what mattered, that he had good akhlaq and taqwa, for example. So he said, let this be an agreement between you and me. I will marry Safra. In exchange, I will work for you. Whichever of the two terms I complete, let there be no blame on me. I will work for at least 8 years. Then I will see whether I'm capable to complete the extra 2 or not. Let Allah be witness to what we say. When they had completed the marriage arrangement, Shu'aib confided in Musa alayhi salam how Allah promised to bring him into his service. So they praised Allah for having fulfilled his promise. So now Musa has been made aware by Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam about him also being in the service of Allah. So it says that these years were the best years of Musa's life. He found in Shu'aib a teacher, an example for spirituality, and also practicing this religion in modern day life, in their life that they're living, how to be a good, prophet. He's around him all the time. He's learning many things. Shu'aib was his role model. So after living a life, in a dual life sort of, in Egypt, he was pretending to be the heir of Fir'aun while also trying to help those oppressed people, Bani Israel. Now he was relieved to be in the company of Mu'mineen. He's now with believers. And it feels good, if you, for example, you are forced to be around bad people and oppressive people, and then you get to be around your own people, the Muslims. It feels, very nice. So he was happy with his new wife, and she was also happy with him. And through mutual agreement, they decided to consummate their marriage before they had completed the term they had stipulated. Soon afterwards, Safra gave birth to their first child, and then another, a boy. So here, the footnote for this, it says that the author says there's no concrete evidence that they had children. However, they're not mentioned by name, he's meaning, but however, later when they traveled to Egypt, Musa alayhi salam told his wife and at least two other people to wait. Mentioned in Quran 28:29. From the grammatical structure of this ayat is in the plural form of the verb, is indicated using that he was addressing at least three people, because if it was his wife, it would have just been feminine singular, but there had to at least been a male present because the masculine plural was used. So he said, the author said, based on this reasoning, there must have at least had two children before leaving Midian, and at least one of them was a boy, because the masculine plural verb was used in this case, which is, let me see here, kuthu. So it's masculine and plural. As I said, if it was just his wife, he would have used a feminine singular verb for her in the Quran. And if it was a wife and two daughters, for example, it would have been the feminine plural verb. But in this case, it's masculine plural. So the author is saying that they must have had two children and at least one of them was a boy. That's his reasoning. He says, as their 10th anniversary approached, Musa decided it was time to return to Egypt. As a parting gift, Shu'aib gave Musa the staff he inherited from Adam, which he fashioned from the boxthorn from the garden. With that, Musa, along with his wife and children, sent off westward. So Musa inherited this staff that went all the way back to Adam, alayhi salam, and this staff was brought from a heavenly tree. And this staff of Musa, alayhi salam, right now is in possession of the Imam of the time, Imam Mahdi, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Want to mention some of these things about the staff of Musa, alayhi salam, before we continue. It's very interesting. So we have hadith from riwayat from Imam Bakr, alayhi salam. He said the staff of Musa was actually the one that Adam had. Then it reached to Shu'aib. And at the time it reached Musa, alayhi salam. The staff is in our possession. And even now when I see it, it is green and fresh as it was when it was broken from the tree. If it is spoken to, it talks. And it has come to our Qa'im, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajul Sharif. He would perform all the tasks through it that Musa had performed. It does whatever it is ordered to do. And wherever it is, wherever it is cast, it snaps up with it its tongue the deception of the enemies. This is from Kamal ad-Din, volume 2, from Sheikh Saduq. Also, we have other narrations like this in Bahar al-Anwar and Basar al-Darajat, al-Kafi, for example. So it would be appropriate just to mention some things about this staff, the qualities of this staff. So Alama Majlisi said in the Bahar al-Anwar, 5th volume, he says, as for the qualities and utilities for Musa, alayhi salam, the knowledgeable ones from the past have said the staff of Musa had two heads, each of its root was curved, and there was also an iron pillar at its end. Thus, wherever Musa used to go in the wilderness at night, when there was no moon, the two heads of the staff used to give light as far as the eye could see. Whenever there was a shortage of water, he used to put it in the well till it reached the bottom of it, and its head used to become like a bucket. Whenever he was hungry, he used to beat it on the ground, and things to eat would come out. It so happened that whenever he had desire for fruits, he used to make a sketch of that fruit on the ground. Then buds of that same tree Musa wanted used to appear and bear fruit at the same time. It is said that the staff of Musa was a stick of almond. Where whenever he felt hungry, he used to put it on the ground and it used to bear fruits and he used to eat almonds from it. When he used to fight with the enemies, a serpent used to appear from each of the two branches of the staff with which he used to fight. Musa used to cast it on difficult mountainous terrains, and also through woods and forests he made his way clear through it. Whenever he wanted to cross a river without a boat, he used to cast his staff upon it. It used to open up a wide path for him on which he walked, and he sometimes used it to drink milk from one of its branches and honey from the other. When he became tired, he used to sit on it, so that whenever he wanted, he could reach it without hands and legs. And it also used to show the way and fight with the enemies. When Musa wanted to smell fragrance, a pleasant odor used to emanate from the staff till it perfumed his clothes. If he were on a route infested with robbers that terrorized the people, the staff used to speak to him, saying, "Change your route in that direction." With the help of the staff of Musa, he used to break the leaves of the trees for his sheep. With it, he used to deflect himself from wild beasts, serpents, and crawling creatures. When he used to go on a journey, he used to fix it on the beast and hang on it rations, water, and clothes. Subhanallah. What a useful tool that is. We all would wish we could have this thing. So Allah has equipped his prophets and now the imams with very useful things that they can, we can say this thing is like when we imagine something that can do a lot of things, we think of this like Swiss Army knife, but the Swiss Army knife is nothing compared to staff of Musa alayhi salam. Inshallah, we will live to see the time when our imam will come with this staff and we can see the benefits of this staff. We have riwayats that they have all of the relics of the prophets are passed down to the imams. So he says, as they passed through the mountains, they lost their sense of direction. Darkness and the chill of the desert night descended on them. From the mountain pass where they stood, they could see the glow of fire ahead on the side of the mountain, to the right of the valley that lay before them. Musa told his wife and children, "Wait here for me, I see fire. I might be able to bring you some information about our route or find a brand of fire so that you can be warm." So maybe some people are there, can learn some information about where to go, and we can at least get some fire to be warm. So he left his family where he felt they would be safe until he returned. Then he walked over into the valley so he could get a close look at the fire before ascending the right flank of the mountain. As he walked, he was miraculously transported hundreds of miles to the northeast. We know this is possible. We see with Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam and others that have done this. Allah, there's a term for it, is slipping my mind, but Allah folds the earth for them, where they can move fastly between places. The word literally means the earth is folding for them. So across the vast Arabian desert to that land where many centuries later would become known as Karbala. We have riwayat that Allah transferred Musa miraculously to the land of Karbala. So the footnote, he talks about this. He says, among biblical historians, there's much debate over the location of the mountain where Allah spoke to Musa, because Musa climbed the mountain on his way from Midian in northwestern Arabia to Egypt. It makes sense that the mountain should be located on this route. For this reason, people have traditionally identified various mountains on what is now known as the Sinai Peninsula. Jabal Musa is the most famous. Some have also identified Jabal al-Lawz, which is located west of Tabuk. Neither the Quran nor Riwayat give us enough information to confirm or refute these claims. He says, however, interestingly, many traditions from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam identify the area around Karbala and Najaf as the location where Allah spoke to Musa. A quick look at the map of the area reveals two challenges for these riwayat. Karbala and Najaf for about 1,000 kilometers in the wrong direction for someone traveling from Midian to Egypt. There are no mountains in Karbala, and there's no mountains in Najaf. There's no mountains anywhere around there. It's flat. If he were transported to Karbala miraculously, there would be no limit on the distance he might have traveled. His travel would then be similar to Maryam's travel from Jerusalem or Quds to Karbala, where she reportedly gave birth to Isa alayhi salam. We have a riwayat about this, that Isa alayhi salam was born in Karbala. And we'll talk about it when we get to the chapter of Isa alayhi salam. He said, in response to the second challenge, I can offer the following defense. The mountain need not to have been a huge mountain that we think of giant mountain like you see, those mountains in New Zealand or the Alps or these big mountains. He said the entire episode clearly takes place on the side of a mountain, not on the top. Even a hill would satisfy this description linguistically. If there is not even a hill left now in modern day Najaf and Karbala, it doesn't mean that the possibility that there wasn't one there before. And over time it eroded or been destroyed. Maybe it's like a hill, not a big mountain made of rock, but maybe at that time there was some hill there that went away over time. He said, if we only had the Quranic verses to look at, we could say with confidence that these events occurred somewhere between Midian and Egypt. However, with the additional riwayat of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we have to allow the apparent meaning of the verse may not be intended. We have to reconcile the riwayat and the ayat of the location. We have to reconcile these things, so to make them, because we do not just throw the riwayat to the side. So he said, if there were only one such tradition, it may have been justified in dismissing it. But we have a lot of traditions from the Imam that say the same thing, that Allah spoke to Musa in Karbala. So we cannot just ignore the fact that we have so many narrations. So he says maybe at that time there was some hill there, and later it eroded over time. As we see, there was hill in Karbala. We have a Tala Zainabiyya that she used to go up on the hill and look into the Battle of Karbala and see what was happening at that time. And we still have this place where it was that they have recently rebuilt that area, but it was known as a hill, the hill of Zainab. So there was hill in Karbala. So in the time of Musa, maybe there was a hill, maybe it was the same hill, maybe there were other hills. But we have riwayat that Allah spoke to Musa in Karbala. So he was able to move that distance, as we have seen with Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, that Allah allowed him to move space and time very easily, and controlled the wind for him. So I think we have run out of time, and when we come back next week, we will talk about what discussion took place between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Musa alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.